Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'd like to give you guys an update on my pepper plants and also my tomato plant. So it's probably been about 2 months since my last update. The reason for that is there's been a really bad aphid infestation that's basically stopped the growth, so there hasn't been much growth since the last update, unfortunately. I've still been able to harvest quite a few chilies because I've obviously got so many chili plants. I've still had enough chilies for my cooking needs, but I haven't had anywhere near the number of chilies I would have expected to have had if it wasn't for the fact that we had so many aphids. So I'll start off with the plants which haven't been too badly attacked by the aphids, and they've been the ones I've been keeping from the balcony. What I've done is I've put the plants on the balcony so that the beneficial insects will deal with the aphids. I could have used soap sprays and I could have used pesticides. The reason I didn't use them is because with pesticides I'm going to be eating these vegetables and I don't want to be soaking my plants in pesticides when I'm going to be eating it. It's not very good for your health. As for soap sprays, they do keep the aphid populations under control, but I find they don't normally completely eradicate them, and I don't want to have to be laboriously spraying these every few days for the rest of their lives. So I didn't want to keep doing it with soap sprays, so I went for the beneficial insect route, and I think it's pretty much finished its course. So it's hopefully treated them all. There shouldn't be any more aphids anymore. So I'll take the ones that are outside, and these are certainly the ones that have had the least amount of aphids. You can see it's looking fairly healthy. This is the 2 Apache plants which I've had outside. Now there are some aphids on here possibly, but you can see that there's not really many at all. Now the growth from these hasn't been as great as it is quite cool outside, especially in the Scottish summer, and this August has actually been quite cold. We did have quite a nice June and July, but then August, September has been pretty chilly. So this hasn't grown a huge amount, but you can see there's definitely quite a few green chilies on the way. See underneath there, quite a few on the side. So this will have a half decent crop in a few weeks. Same with this one here. You can see it's got a lot that have just set. These are a bit further behind. You can see there, that one looks like it's going to abort because it's going to be yellow, but the other ones have hopefully set. And we'll get a small crop off this, but this one will be later on when this crops. And it still has some flower buds, so we might get a few more on that at a later date. And this one has got a few more signs of aphids. I can't see any actual aphids that are still alive. What's mainly dealt with these aphids is there was quite a few hoverfly larvae. I don't think I've got any left to show you. They've all turned into hoverflies and disappeared. But the other thing that was treating these is the parasitic wasps. And what they do is they lay their eggs into the aphid, and the aphid basically becomes like a zombie. And I've got quite a few here that I can show you. So hopefully you can see on that leaf there, that's basically what was seen as like a mummified aphid. What happens is the small parasitic wasp lays its egg in a healthy aphid. The egg then develops into a larva, grows inside the aphid, makes kind of like this bloated aphid, as you can see here, but like a cocoon, and then emerges as a new wasp. So they're very small, these wasps, but they've dealt with nearly all these aphids. That's why all you can see now are these kind of mummified aphids that are remaining. The rest have all been taken care of with the parasitic wasps. So these two, that's why these two are looking a lot healthier than the other ones. They've been outside, have had more beneficial insects. Same with my oldest Apache chili plant. It's also looking not quite as bad as the others. It's still not done great this year. I'm not too sure why. As I say, I think it's getting to the end of its life. It is quite an old plant, it's several years old now. This did get badly attacked by aphids as well, so that set it back. It didn't really grow much this summer. Possibly it's the aphids that have set it back, possibly it's its age. But I have had a few chilies. You can see there's a red one there. There's several new ones that are coming on, and there's some more flower buds. So that will keep cropping throughout the autumn, hopefully. I'm keeping these now on a sunny window inside, because what's happened now is it's suddenly got quite cold. It's September at the moment. Daytime temperatures are probably only about 10 or 12 degrees. Nighttime is about 8 degrees, sometimes down to 5. So it's too cold for the chilies, so these are now inside. So going into my chilies that are in the grow box. The grow box didn't have any beneficial insects in there, because obviously it's sealed from the outside world. So I took out this plant, which is my grafted sweet pepper plant. I put it outside so it could get some beneficial insects. Those beneficial insects then came in with it to the box and have dealt with all the aphids again, which is good. You can see there's lots of kind of dead cocooned aphids on the inside, on the underneath of the leaves. But because it took longer for the population of beneficial insects to increase, because it was inside and there wasn't any more coming from outside, it was just what was breeding on the actual plants, the infection got a lot worse. So here you can see there's a little bit of black mould starting to appear. quite a lot of sticky material. You can see that it's really sticky on the leaf. See if I can get you a closer shot of that. So that shiny sticky material, that's the excretions from the aphids. And the problem with that is it starts going mouldy over time. It turns into black mould. Now it hasn't happened on this plant, unfortunately, too much because it's not been as badly affected. But this sweet pepper here, you can see just one of the yellow peppers there, was really badly affected. And you can see there is actually like a black mould growing over the leaves. So this will cause the leaves to not get enough light, and also it can restrict the airflow. So these will probably die off. You can see that one there is very loose. It just kind of falls off even though it's still green. So I'll have to make sure they're well rinsed. And there is unfortunately some aphids still on here. It's a mixture of aphids and parasitic wasps. If I can find a parasitic wasp, I'll show you one close up. So that little black spot there is actually a parasitic wasp. That'll walk around looking for aphids. If it finds any, it'll then lay its eggs into them, and that'll then pupate and turn into a new parasitic wasp. And to say they're very small, you can barely see them. They don't really look like normal wasps. It's just that little tiny speck just there moving around on the leaf. So moving on to my other peppers, as I say, the grafted one hasn't fruited at all. I got some out of that smaller one I just showed you, some sweet peppers. This one, it's been about a month since it's had a fruit. I think it's had maybe one since the last update. But there's several flowers coming on it now. It's just coming back into growth. So what I'm going to do is probably give it a bit more support. Give all the plants a rinse because I need to wash off all this like sticky material from the aphids, any dead aphid bodies as well. And hopefully I won't get too many more aphids coming back. There should be a few parasitic wasps left in the box that will deal with any straggling aphids that are left. This here is my Apache chili. This has probably done the best actually out of all the plants, even though it's also been badly hit with aphids. And I have actually put thrip predators on all the pepper plants because I had a really bad thrip infestation earlier in the year. This is the new bats that I put on because the thrips, although they were dealt with, they just started to come back, and this has kept them at bay. So there's been no thrip damage, so that's been great. As I say, it's only been aphids this time. And this one, I've been cropping probably about maybe five chilies, close to about 5 chilies a week off this. So it's been growing really well. You can see there's quite a few red ones. There's not many green ones left. I think it's just getting to the end stage of its crop. Once these final ones have turned red, these last few green ones that are there, it's probably going to start growing again. Put another flush of flowers on, and then I'll get another big heavy crop of chilies. But it's been pretty good so far. I'd say the growth has stopped until the next batch of chilies are finished, and then it'll start really growing again. I find often with chilies, when they've got a lot of fruit, they don't grow. They put all the energy into the fruit, and then they'll grow again after that. And at that stage, hopefully I'll have some pots free. I have actually got some pots, but they're a lot bigger than this one here. This is about a 2 or 3 litre pot. But the bigger pots, the problem with them is that I'm still using them at the moment for my dahlias. So once the dahlias are finished, which has hopefully been about a month's time when the first frost comes, I'll then put the chilies in much bigger pots. So I'll definitely keep the piri in a bigger pot because I really like that one. Also this grafted pepper because I think that has potential to get really large. As for the other peppers, I'm not too bothered about them. This one hasn't done too great, so I don't mind getting rid of this one. Doesn't need a big pot really. And the 2 Apaches as well, they're quite small dwarf varieties, so they don't really need a bigger pot. They'll be quite happy in this side pot for another year probably, so I'm going to keep them in their small pots. And finally, my last plant is actually my tomato plant. This is the variety Totem. Now I did put some supports on it, but I didn't check it regularly enough, and unfortunately it has snapped its main branch on the left here. It has got a good crop of tomatoes actually, but I'm gonna pick them all now so we can see how many there is. So you can see there's a couple on these branches, but not too many. That's why these branches are probably not snapped. But this was the main growth at the bottom here. You can see there is actually quite a lot of tomatoes on it. It has been cropping quite well for me. I've probably been getting about 2 tomatoes a week. They're quite small tomatoes. They're not quite as small as a cherry tomato, but they're not as big as a salad. It's somewhere in between. As I said before, with this Totem variety, the flavour isn't the greatest, but they're still pleasant enough. If you want to grow tomato for a good flavour, I definitely wouldn't go with the Totem variety. But if you've got a very small space and you're not too bothered about the flavour, then Totem is quite a good one to go for. You can see it's quite small. Even though it's only about a foot tall, I'm probably getting, as I say, about 2 tomatoes a week. So it's been doing quite well. It'll be interesting how much more growth it puts on. Because this is actually a determinate variety, it will eventually stop growing. It's not going to keep going taller and taller like a lot of varieties. It's a small bushed variety. So once it's got to its full growth, it's not going to continue putting out new shoots, but we'll see how it does. At the moment it is putting out some new shoots at the top still, and and this cluster down here, which then snapped, seems to be putting out a few new shoots. So we'll see, it might do a bit longer. It'll just be interesting to see how far it goes. I'm not planning to keep this as a perennial. Probably when I get into winter, I'll probably just give up on this one, especially as I'll need the grow box space for my other peppers, because I want to keep them growing. And tomatoes are quite easy to grow again from seed. They grow a lot and faster, and they crop a lot quicker than a chilli. So my chilli plants take a lot longer to get to this size, whereas the tomato plant can get up to that size pretty quickly. So that's all the tomatoes picked off it anyway. So you can see there's eight tomatoes on that plant. One of them's not quite ripe, but it'll ripen in a few days. It's kind of orangey colour, but the rest of them are looking really nice and rosy and red. So that's going to be good for cooking or just eating straight. So I'm quite happy with the tomato yields on this, even though it's a tiny plant. If I wanted to be self-sufficient in tomatoes, I could quite easily do that in my grow box, and I can also be self-sufficient in chilies as well. Only thing I probably can't be self-sufficient in is sweet peppers, because I tend to eat a lot of sweet peppers, and one plant doesn't give you a huge amount, so I've probably only had about 4 or 5 so far this year from my 2 plants. Part of that is because of the aphid problems, so you could probably get a lot more if you didn't have as many aphids on my plants. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give these all a rinse. You can see, as I say, there's a lot of black mould, a lot of sticky material. Give them all a rinse, make sure they've got that all washed off. It's just putting it in the shower basically, washing off all the rubbish. I'm also going to pick off all the dead leaves as well, and I'll come back to you once I've done all that, and hopefully they'll look a lot fresher. So that's the plants now rinsed. You'll see they do look a bit bedraggled because it's quite abrasive, the jet from the shower. But it has cleaned off the majority of the black mould. You can see this was the worst plant, I think, in the before I washed it. And that's most of it gone now. There's maybe a few aphids hiding underneath still, but even any aphids that were hiding, most of them would have been washed off by the shower. And hopefully any parasitic wasp left in the box will deal with them now. This one though, my grafted pepper, is looking pretty sorry for itself. The stems aren't really that strong, and the wet leaves are really heavy and weighing it down. So what I'm going to do is give this quite a hard chop. Also, because it's kind of growing to one side, you can see there's it's all growing to the left. What's going to happen is over time the imbalance is going to become worse and worse, and it'll probably just snap itself off if it puts on some more fruit. So I'm actually going to prune this one to give it a slightly better shape again. So I do actually want this to get as big as possible, but because of how much damage it's had from this jet, and also because it's overhanging too much, I am going to prune it back. I'm going to give it quite a hard prune, so I'm going to prune it back pretty much to wherever there's anything coming over the pot. It's going to come off, and this will actually be most of its branches. You can see there, most of its branches taken off. But what this does mean, if there's nothing really poking too far over that way, some of the branches that are growing this way, hopefully they should re-sprout some more side branches. I'll be able to train it up a bit more into that kind of direction. What I will do is I'll put it in the grow box against the wall, so anything that does try and grow to the right won't be able to, and it'll just kind of flop backwards again to the central area. I won't be able to straighten up, unfortunately, until I repot it, because you can see it fell down and it's kind of secured itself in place, so it won't be able to come back up again. But what I will do is, as I say, I'll give it some good feed. I'll put it back in the grow box, give it plenty of light. It should regrow, lots of new shoots on, and it's got quite a strong, vigorous root system, so I should expect this to have very strong growth coming on it soon, with lots of new shoots. Might not get that much flowers until the new shoots have finished their growth spurt. Once they've done their growth spurt, they'll probably put on lots of new flowers, and I'll hopefully get some good crops. It is a bit of a shame to cut off probably 2 or 3 months worth of growth, but I'm hoping this will recover quite quick, and in the end we'll hopefully have a stronger plant for it. So that's all for this update. Hopefully I'll get some better news in the next update. As I say, this update hasn't been great because of all the aphid problems. I have been having a half decent crop of chilies, but I'm hoping now that I'll get a much better crop, that the aphids have pretty much been dealt with. They might come back again, we'll just have to see how well the parasitic wasps do. As I say, it's always difficult to get 100% of the aphids eradicated. There'll always be 1 or 2 hiding, and as they can clone themselves, they don't need any mates to reproduce. So even if you have 1 aphid, it can quickly produce a big colony of aphids. Anyway, I'll give you guys an update. It'll probably be in about a month, maybe a bit over a month, especially as they're coming into autumn. Temperatures are getting a bit lower, so the plants are going to slow down a bit. Hopefully the ones in the grow box should stay quite warm. It's currently about 26, 28 degrees in the grow box, so they should still put on some good growth. And it'll probably be towards the end of the life for the tomato plant by then, as it's had quite a long season. So that's all for this update, and I'll see you guys in about a month or 2.